Hi, Lizzie here from Investors in Learning. Thank you for joining me. Now, this is a message and a video for hiring managers and leaders who are seeking a perfect solution to recruit and retain high-performing people during this challenging time. This is also for you if you're seeking how to recruit and retain high-performing people, even if you have no recruitment or HR support available. And on the flip side, you may have wonderful HR support available, but we still add value through our occupational psychology processes and tools, as well as our profiling solutions. Now, I've already shot a different video, which is a summary. This is going into a little bit more detail so that you can understand the benefits that we bring compared to an ordinary recruitment agent service, and why this is so critical at this particular time where we're going through such challenging circumstances. So I'd like to explain a little bit more about the context first of all, to help us all understand the bigger picture of why it's so crucial not to just to consider the high-performing job-specific traits, which we as psychologists, we look at the traits that are essential to create high performers in a job, or the traits that make certain things happen. Also the traits underpinning resilient learning cultures and what is required to be a resilient learner. The traits that are so important during this COVID time. That's what we consider as psychologists. So in the recruitment context, what we do is we give you tools and we apply these tools and solutions for you and with you so that you can screen against those traits for your candidates and the people that you may recruit. So we are helping you to mitigate risk and maximize chances of success by actually honing into the traits that are required specifically for the job, as well as the factors that we need to consider beyond the job. So as psychologists, we can add that further insight. Plus we have tools that can help you screen people so that you get data that you can incorporate into your interviews, and it helps you to add to your gut instinct. And of course, the energy that you need to feel with people is crucial. However, before you even sit down and have an interview with somebody, you need to know some facts about them. And in the ordinary recruitment process, these facts are non-existent in most cases, because the only facts you go on is the CV, the skills, the experience, the education. But those things, let's face it, are things that get people through the door, unless you're looking for an entry role where no experience is necessary. You know, you have your benchmark of what is it that we need before we even get somebody through the door, but what you're not measuring is the traits, the actual characteristics. And we know from decades of research that high performance is a combination of what we call eligibility, which is the things you see in the CV, together with suitability, which is the character traits. So you've got your skills, your experience, your education, and all the things that you've done in your life, combined with your character traits, the way you are, the way you actually deliver your work, who you are as a unique individual. And it's the combination of those things that deliver high performance. So hence I wanted to give you a further, deeper insight into why this is so fundamental, to give justice to this message, and also to give justice to delivering the message to you so that you maximize your chances of business success during these critical decisions that you're making now in this time. Because most people that we've spoken to are not considering COVID factors in their recruitment process and are not considering resilient learning factors. So they're really missing a big trick. And also, not just a trick, but they're missing out on future-proofing their organization. And not just that, but you are actually thinking about it, needing to consider these factors not just in relation to leadership roles or management roles. They're actually crucial for any role, because ideally we only want people in our organizations who have got a resilient learner attitude, who have got resilient learning traits, who have positive learner characteristics, who have learning agility, who have resilience, adaptability to change, a lessons learned mindset, an internal learning culture where they reflect and review and think about how they need to correct their actions. People who are careful and mindful and self-aware and then change their mistakes and turn them into successes. Now that's quite a refined human being. I will accept this. The majority of us are not very good at lessons learned, but the point is we want to get as close as possible to the best fit, especially if you're aiming for high performance. If you want the best people, now you may have somebody who has no experience, but actually has the skills and has the traits, traits are also skills actually, because traits can create a skill in terms of interpersonal skills, for example. There's a mixture of traits. So you can find people who are really, really developed on certain traits, even with no experience, and you will find those people can hit the ground running in certain jobs really, really quickly. And compared to having somebody with no experience and the wrong traits. So it's really a matter of being very mindful and planning for high performance. So I just will outline here the headings in a bit more detail. We have recruitment, we have retention, and we have resilient learning and COVID factors. So under recruitment, what we do is we will really help you to get clarity about the purpose of the role that you are seeking to fill. So you may think, hey, I've got a job description, I don't need any more clarity. Well, actually, the chances are that the purpose behind the role will have changed since you last thought about it, even if you do have a job description. Some jobs haven't got job descriptions, some companies haven't got any job descriptions, and it's fine if you do or you don't. We can work with either. But the point is, we need to look at the purpose behind the job in order to do the job analysis, which is an occupational psychology process where we ask specific questions around the job. And then that leads to the job description, which even if you have one, the chances are we will have to adapt and renew it anyway in the light of the purpose. And in these changing times, it's amazing how the purpose of certain jobs has already changed. And if you are rethinking jobs, and really, why do I need somebody in this role and what do I want them to deliver? Really think about the why that leads to the what, then actually the job description can sometimes change quite radically. Only then will we actually be happy that we can support you or write for you the job ad. The job ad then, of course, is the magnet that attracts the people into your applicant tracking system, where the applicants start applying. But if you send out a job ad without having done this first, what tends to happen is you attract the wrong people because you haven't been specific in who you're trying to attract. And that is so common. So very often people shortcut this, go straight to the job description, send a mail out to a recruitment agent, they then post the job, and then what happens? You're attracting lots of people and you don't even know whether they are the right people. Now, the other thing that we do as part of this job analysis, we overlap it with the high-performing job-specific traits. So we will help you to make sure that in the job description, you already have these high-performing job-specific traits figured, and therefore we also will, of course, integrate some of those into the job ad. So as part of the clarity purpose job analysis, we're also looking at retention factors. And of course, the high-performing job-specific traits are traits that we know from research and global benchmarking studies. They're not traits that we make up. They are there comparing your position to similar positions and the traits there where people have performed highly in those positions. That's the important differential. The tool we use, and I will say as a big warning, I don't know of another tool that does this. Many tools that I wouldn't touch as an occupational psychologist, I'll say honestly to you, many tools do not use high-performing benchmarking studies to benchmark the traits against. They will compare your people, your candidates or your current people, if it's for development work, to traits that are similar in similar roles, and that's it. But why would I be interested in traits of an average manager or even a low-performing manager? Why would I want to compare myself or a potential candidate against low-performing or average-performing traits? So we get away from that problem to begin with. So be careful I personally don't know of another tool that actually has the same benchmarking global data available that creates the validity behind the traits that we're comparing your candidates against. So that's just a bit of background information, but not every tool does the same thing. Really important. So then you get your job ad out there and the advert reflects the purpose, and you're then attracting people in. And at that point then we start the screening. We have shortlisting. Now we will shortlist based on criteria that of course we've discussed with you, or you may want to shortlist, we can discuss who does what. You have full transparency of the applicant tracking system. We like you to see what we see, depending on which package you choose. The packages that we have are just about the level of involvement, but if you want the full support, we do the full package. So the point is, the shortlisting happens, and then the candidates are screened against these high-performing traits, as well as any COVID factors or any resilient learning factors. So the COVID factors are for example, to do with remote working. Now, if this person has got to be doing a lot of remote working, there are certain traits linked to that maximize chances of high performance. And again, why leave those to chance? So remote leadership, remote productivity, remote communication are very different to the equivalent non-remote traits and skills. So looking at the job, we add the traits that are important, and we create a formula which is made up of essential traits, desirable traits, and traits to avoid. You need to know what you want, but you also need to know what you don't want. Again, a very common mistake. People don't add what they don't want. Or very often, to be honest, people don't even know what they want because they haven't done the analysis. It's all very vague and opaque, and you kind of think, oh, we'll kind of get a feel of the person. Oh, their CV looks good. And that's basically what recruitment usually is. It's based on the CV looking good. Well, that's a very high risk strategy. And to be honest, one that if I'm advising any leader or any hiring manager, you wouldn't do that. Why would you only look at a CV if we've got these amazing tools to help you to screen and to make sure that you are future-proof in your organization with the traits you need? So that's the key message, really. So beyond that, I will now explain what we do under the heading of retention. The whole area of retention is pivotal because, of course, nobody wants to recruit and not retain. You would never aim to recruit without wishing to retain. But sadly, usually nobody does anything proactively to ensure that retention happens or that it maximizes the chances that it happens. All we can do is mitigate risk and use all the factors and all the tools we have to mitigate that risk that somebody will drop out and maximize the chances that somebody won't. So one of the key variables, as I've already explained, is high-performing job-specific traits. Hugely important. If somebody has high-performing job-specific traits and they're matched with the job you're seeking to fill, great, you'll have an alignment. There'll be far more likelihood that the company needs and the individual needs will actually meet and be aligned, which is hugely important. In addition to that, of course, we're looking at the COVID factors and the resilient learning culture factors, which also will help retention. It's also important that we actually are planning for fulfillment and engagement. Not just that we have the traits for the job, but specifically for retention, we are looking at, hugely importantly, the engagement. How we can ensure and maximize the chances that this individual will be engaged in their job, but that we are actually clear on what the fulfillment factors are for that individual. What fulfills you will be different to what fulfills me. And fulfillment factors is, again, something we can measure. So you can actually look at what the factors are that fulfill somebody, and then we will be very honest and frank with you to look at how you as a company can actually meet those fulfillment factors of that individual. So ultimately, we need to recognize it's a two-way street here. For the individual to be fulfilled, the company has to provide a certain environment, certain values, certain processes, certain expectations that the individual will have based on who they are, and vice versa. For the company to be fulfilled or the leadership to be fulfilled, you need the individual to perform in line with their expectations. So there needs to be an alignment, and we have ways that we can look at this alignment. Hugely important, and it's not enough to look for job satisfaction. Job satisfaction is not going to give you the productivity and the outcomes that your business needs for real business success. Satisfaction just means that you're okay, you're satisfied, you're not unhappy, but it doesn't mean you are actually happy. You're not positively engaged and fulfilled. Fulfillment is what we are aiming for. Fulfillment is where you are working with your strengths, where you're feeling in flow, where time passes quickly, where you're actually aligned with your individual values and your individual strengths, and you feel you really want to make a contribution. You have that fire within that you want to be using, and you wake up in the morning engaged and motivated, raring to go to achieve those business outcomes. We don't aim for job satisfaction because we are aiming for high performers. Why would you aim for anything else? Why would you aim for average? If you're going to do this, you might as well do it right and do it well. We're aiming for high performance. High performers are usually not just satisfied. High performers are fulfilled in their role. If they're only satisfied, they're going to be pushing themselves, and there'll be an end looming pretty soon, and they'll find somewhere to go where they are fulfilled. What we know from research on motivation, business success studies, organizational psychology research is that fulfillment is what leads to highest levels of productivity, not job satisfaction. So we have a way of matching up the fulfillment factors, the individual and the company factors, and making sure there is an alignment. So hugely importantly for retention is to mitigate the risk against that to begin with. So this has given you an outline behind the recruitment, the retention, and the resilient learning culture and the COVID factors we take into account. Also, very importantly, once somebody is recruited, we then give you a development plan. That's also part of retention. The development plan is there to ensure that that person knows what they need to focus on and where their traits need a little bit of work in relation to their job. We have the data, we may as well use it to develop. And hugely importantly, once somebody is in the job, it takes around 40 days to go native, which means to adapt to the new values, to the new processes, to the new rules, the habits that that company has. And in those first 40 days, it's a fantastic opportunity to actually start with this development plan. And if part of the interview is you do realize we're going to have a development plan and there's any rejection to that, you will realize that person's openness to learning is also questionable. So it's having a development plan for every individual is a very important part of your whole development process, but especially as part of the induction when somebody comes in. So we will supply you with that, which again will maximize chances of retention. So this has been an overview. I look forward to hearing from you, and if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. We would love to serve you with your recruitment needs and your development needs, of course. Please have a look at our recruitment packages on our site. This is about the level of involvement that we have with you, and any requests you have or questions you have, we're here to discuss it with you, of course. Thank you very much for listening, and we wish you all the very best.